The crimson sun of Kepler 247 bits cast long shadows across the research outpost's landing pad as Marcus Reeves adjusted his atmospheric suit for the third time. At 16, he was the youngest member of the Junior Scout program, and he wasn't about to let a faulty seal be his legacy. Beside him, Kira Patel, the team's 18-year-old leader, reviewed the mission parameters on her holographic display. "Remember," she said, her voice crackling through the comm system, "this is a routine signal investigation. We go in, we find the source, we document, and we leave. No heroics." She glanced pointedly at their third team member, Dominic Torres, who was already fidgeting with his scanner array. "You take the fun out of everything, Kira," Dominic replied, grinning beneath his helmet's faceplate. At 17, he'd earned a reputation for turning routine missions into adventures, not always with positive results. The signal had appeared 3 days ago, a pulsing beacon emanating from deep within the planet's mysterious twilight forest, where perpetual dusk reigned beneath the canopy of towering bioluminescent trees. Initial scans suggested it might be a distress call from one of the many prospecting vessels that had vanished in this sector over the past decade. As they descended into the forest, their boots crunching on phosphorescent moss, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. The trees here were ancient, their trunks wider than shuttlecraft, their branches intertwining hundreds of meters overhead to form a living ceiling that filtered the sunlight into an eternal purple twilight. "Signal's getting stronger," Dominic announced, his scanner emitting a steady series of clicks. "About 2 kilometers northeast." Kira nodded, consulting her nav map. "That puts it near the old mining complex, the one they abandoned after the earthquake swarm in 47. The mention of the complex sent a shiver down Marcus's spine. He'd read the reports, how the entire facility had been evacuated in less than 6 hours, leaving behind millions in equipment. The official story blamed seismic activity, but he'd seen the classified appendices during his training. The quakes had been too regular, too precise, almost artificial. As they pressed deeper into the forest, the bioluminescent flora intensified, painting their path in swirling patterns of blue and green light. The clicking of Dominic's scanner grew more insistent, its rhythm matching the strange pulsing that seemed to emanate from the very ground beneath their feet. "Hold up," Kira commanded suddenly, raising her fist. "Movement at 2 o'clock." Marcus froze, his hand instinctively moving to the pulse pistol at his hip. Through the trees, something large shifted in the darkness. The movement was fluid, purposeful, nothing like the lumbering forest creatures they'd encountered before. "Probably just a shade stalker," Dominic whispered, but his voice lacked conviction. Shade stalkers were massive, yes, but they moved like thunder. This was silent. The thing in the darkness paused, and for a moment, Marcus caught a glimpse of iridescent patterns rippling across its surface, geometric shapes that seemed to pulse in sync with the beacon's signal. Then it was gone, melting into the shadows as if it had never existed. "We should turn back," Marcus said, his mouth dry. Protocol says we investigate potential distress signals." Kira interrupted, though her voice trembled slightly. "Besides, we're almost there." The mining complex emerged from the forest like a ghost ship from fog, a sprawling collection of prefab structures and processing equipment, all of it covered in a thick layer of luminescent vine growth. But something was wrong. The buildings weren't simply abandoned. They were transformed. The metal walls had been reshaped, twisted into flowing curves and spirals that seemed to defy physics. "That's not earthquake damage," Dominic breathed, his scanner forgotten at his side. Before anyone could respond, the beacon signal changed. What had been a steady pulse became a symphony of overlapping frequencies that made their suit computers shriek in protest. Marcus clapped his hands over his helmet, but the sound was inside his head now, resolving into patterns that felt almost like language. "We need to leave," Kira said, her leadership training giving way to raw instinct. Now, they turned to retreat, but the forest had changed. The bioluminescent patterns that had guided their way now swirled in dizzying configurations, making it impossible to distinguish one direction from another. And there, blocking their original path, stood the creature they'd glimpsed earlier. In the full light of the mutated complex, its true form was finally revealed. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, its body a shifting amalgamation of crystalline structures and flowing organic matter. Patterns of light coursed across its surface like circuits on a living motherboard. And its eyes, if they could be called eyes, were pools of swirling energy that seemed to pierce directly into Marcus's consciousness. The creature raised one of its limbs, revealing an appendage that terminated in what appeared to be both a hand and a tool of incomprehensible complexity. The beacon signal reached a crescendo, and suddenly Marcus understood. They hadn't found a distress signal. They'd stumbled into a trap. The signal wasn't a cry for help. It was a warning, a boundary marker. And they had just crossed the line. "Run!" Kira screamed, but it was too late. The creature's patterns flared with blinding intensity, and the forest itself seemed to come alive around them. Vines writhed like serpents, trees groaned and shifted, and the ground beneath their feet began to pulse with an alien heartbeat. The last thing Marcus saw before the darkness took him was the creature's face, if it could be called a face, reshaping itself into something that might have been a smile. They had come looking for mysteries in the twilight forest. Instead, they had become part of one. Marcus awoke to the taste of copper in his mouth and the soft hum of emergency systems. His suit's heads-up display flickered weakly, showing multiple system warnings, but miraculously, no breach alerts. The forest floor beneath him pulsed with a faint, rhythmic glow that seemed to match his heartbeat. "Kira, Dominic," he whispered into his comm, fighting back a wave of dizziness. Static answered, punctuated by bursts of what sounded like crystalline chimes. He forced himself to his feet, checking his surroundings. The mining complex had vanished, or perhaps he had been moved. The trees here were different. Their trunks spiraled impossibly, and their bioluminescent patterns formed complex mathematical sequences that hurt his eyes. A sound cut through the static in his comm, breathing, ragged and frightened. "Marcus." It was Dominic's voice, barely audible. "Don't move. It's still here." Marcus froze, his pulse quickening. Through the ethereal glow of the forest, he caught glimpses of moving shadows. The creature hadn't left. It was patrolling, methodically sweeping the area in an expanding spiral pattern. Its hunting strategy was disturbingly intelligent. "Where's Kira?" Marcus whispered back, carefully turning his head to scan the surrounding vegetation. "I don't know. We got separated when everything went dark. Listen, I think I understand something about it now. The patterns, they're not just for show. They're communication." The creature's metallic organic form appeared briefly between two twisted trees, its surface now displaying cascading sequences of geometric shapes. Each pattern seemed to ripple through the surrounding flora, creating answering pulses of light that spread like waves through the forest. "It's not just one being," Dominic continued, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and scientific fascination. "The whole forest is connected. It's all one organism. And that thing out there, it's like an antibody. We're an infection it's trying to eliminate." Marcus's mind raced. If Dominic was right, they weren't just being hunted. They were being contained, like viruses threatening a living system. His training hadn't prepared him for anything like this. The Junior Scout program focused on exploration, first contact protocols, and basic survival skills. Nothing in the manual covered being trapped in a sentient forest by a crystalline entity that viewed you as a pathogen. A sudden burst of static in his comm made him jump. "Anyone? Copy?" Kira's voice, breaking through the interference. "I'm Research Station, Level 3. Kira." Marcus hissed. "Where are you?" "Found. Backup facility. Underground." Something strange, Older than the mining operation. Get to. Coordinates. The transmission cut off, but not before his suit logged a partial set of coordinates. They pointed to a location about half a kilometer to the east, deeper into the twisted heart of the forest. "Dominic," Marcus whispered. "Did you get that?" "Yeah. But Marcus, moving means exposing ourselves. That thing is hurting us. Every time we run, we end up exactly where it wants us." A crystalline chime echoed through the trees, closer now. The creature was changing its search pattern, becoming more aggressive. Marcus saw its form pass behind a cluster of luminescent vines, its patterns now pulsing with a rapid, almost angry rhythm. "We don't have a choice," Marcus replied. "We need to regroup with Kira. Maybe this backup facility has answers, or at least somewhere we can defend ourselves." "Okay," Dominic agreed reluctantly. "I'm about 20 meters to your right. On my mark, run for that cluster of spiral trees. The patterns there are different. They might provide cover." Marcus tensed, preparing himself. The creature appeared again, its back turned as it investigated a patch of disturbed moss. Now was their chance. "Mark." They burst from their hiding spots, sprinting toward the spiral trees. Behind them, a high-pitched tone cut through the air. The creature had spotted them. The forest floor erupted with pulses of light that spread outward like ripples in a pond, tracking their movement. "Don't look back," Dominic shouted. "The patterns, they're trying to disorient us." They ran through the twisted landscape, their path illuminated by the betraying pulses of light that spread through the forest's living network. The creature pursued them with terrifying efficiency, using the forest itself to guide its hunt. Vines whipped at their suits, trees seemed to shift position, and the ground beneath their feet vibrated with alien energy. Marcus's suit computer beeped. They were approaching the coordinates Kira had transmitted. Through the chaos of the forest, he spotted something that didn't belong. A metallic hatch, almost completely overgrown with luminescent moss. "There," he gasped, pointing. "That has to be it." They changed course, heading for the hatch. The creature's crystalline song rose to a piercing crescendo, and Marcus felt something grab his ankle, a vine, pulsing with the same patterns as their pursuer. He stumbled, crying out as he hit the ground. Dominic skidded to a stop, turning back. "Hold on." "No," Marcus shouted, struggling with the vine. "Get to the hatch. Find Kira." The creature emerged from the forest like a nightmare-given form, its patterns now burning with intense light. Dominic hesitated for a split second, then sprinted for the hatch. The vine around Marcus's ankle tightened, pulling him backward across the forest floor. In desperation, Marcus reached for his pulse pistol. The weapon was meant for self-defense against wildlife, not combat with advanced alien entities. But as the creature loomed over him, its crystalline form refracting the forest's light into 1,000 rainbow shards, he realized he was out of options. He fired. The pulse blast struck the creature's surface, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then its patterns flickered, became chaotic. The vine around his ankle loosened. The creature staggered back, its form rippling with discordant energy. Marcus scrambled to his feet and ran. Behind him, the creature emitted a sound unlike anything he'd heard before, not a roar or a screech, but a complex harmony of tones that made his teeth vibrate. The forest responded, its bioluminescent patterns shifting from blues and greens to angry reds and purples. He reached the hatch just as Dominic got it open. They dove inside, pulling the heavy metal door shut behind them. In the darkness of the facility, their labored breathing echoed off unseen walls. "We need to move," Dominic said, activating his suit's lights. "That thing, when you shot it, I don't think you heard it. I think you made it angry." The facility's emergency lights flickered to life, revealing a long corridor that stretched into the darkness. Somewhere ahead, Kira was waiting, and hopefully, answers about what they'd stumbled into. But as they began their descent into the facility's depths, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking exactly the path the creature had planned for them all along. The underground facility's corridors stretched before Marcus and Dominic like the veins of some mechanical beast. Their footsteps echoed off metal walls that bore strange markings, not the standard industrial warnings and directions, but complex geometric patterns that seemed disturbingly familiar. "These symbols," Dominic murmured, running his gloved hand along one wall. "They're similar to the patterns on that creature. This place, it's not just a human facility." A distant clang made them both jump. The sound reverberated through the corridor, followed by Kira's voice over their comms. "Down here. Level 3. Section B, hurry. You need to see this." They followed the emergency lighting, descending deeper into the facility. The air grew thicker, charged with an energy that made their suit sensors crackle with static. When they finally found Kira, she was standing in what appeared to be a massive research chamber, surrounded by holographic displays that flickered with ancient data. "Look at this," she said without preamble, gesturing to the central display. This facility wasn't built to mine resources. It was built to study them. The hologram showed a three-dimensional model of the creature that had been hunting them. But this representation was different. It revealed layers of complexity they hadn't been able to see in the forest, crystalline structures that weren't just decorative but formed intricate computational networks, organic components that seemed to defy known biology. "They're calling it a guardian," Kira continued, her voice tight with controlled fear and fascination. "According to these logs, the first mining operation discovered something they shouldn't have. Not just the creature, but evidence of an entire civilization that existed here millions of years ago." A civilization. Marcus stepped closer to the display, watching as it cycled through different views of the Guardian's anatomy. "But there are no structures, no ruins. Because we were looking for the wrong things," Dominic interrupted, excitement overtaking his fear. "The forest itself is the civilization. The trees, the bioluminescence, even the soil. It's all part of a vast biological computer. And the Guardian. It's like an administrator program given physical form." A low rumble shook the facility, sending cascades of dust from the ceiling. Above them, something heavy moved across the surface. The Guardian hadn't given up. It was searching for a way in. Kira quickly accessed another terminal. "There's more. The research team that built this place. They weren't just studying the Guardian. They were trying to communicate with it. Look at this footage." The holographic display shifted, showing grainy video of what appeared to be a first contact attempt. Scientists in early model environmental suits stood before a Guardian, projecting patterns of light that mimicked its crystalline displays. The creature responded, its surface rippling with complex sequences of geometric shapes. "They established communication?" Marcus asked, leaning forward. "More than that," Kira replied grimly. "They learned that this entire planet is essentially one vast organism. The Guardians protect its neural pathways, the forest networks we've been trampling through. But the mining company, they didn't shut down operations because of earthquakes. They shut down because they realized they weren't just extracting resources. They were causing brain damage to a living planet." Another rumble, closer this time. The lights flickered, and somewhere in the facility, metal screamed as it was torn apart. "It's inside," Dominic whispered. "Wait," Marcus said, studying the terminal's data. "If they managed to communicate with it, there must be protocols, some way to show we're not a threat." Kira nodded. "They developed a device, a pattern generator that could replicate the Guardian's bioluminescent language. But it's not in the research chamber. According to the logs, they stored it in the secure vault, one level down." "Which means we have to go deeper," Dominic said, his voice hollow. "Deeper into a facility that's being torn apart by an ancient alien security system." The facility shook again, and this time the power fluctuated significantly. The emergency lights switched to red, bathing everything in a bloody glow. Through the walls, they could hear the crystalline singing of the Guardian. no longer the harmonic tones from the forest, but a discordant symphony that set their teeth on edge. "We don't have a choice," Kira decided, downloading what data she could to her suit's computer. "That thing isn't just trying to kill us anymore. Based on these readings, it's interfacing with the facility's systems. Soon, it'll have control of everything. Life support, security, all of it." Marcus checked his pulse pistol, the weapon that had barely fazed the Guardian in the forest. "The vault will be sealed. How do we get in?" The research team left emergency protocols, Kira explained, leading them toward a sealed doorway, fail-safes in case they needed to access the vault during an attack. "But there's something else you need to know." She paused, her expression visible through her helmet's faceplate. "The pattern generator. It wasn't just for communication. The researchers discovered that the Guardians aren't just protecting this planet. They're containing something. Something the ancient civilization found or created. The logs aren't clear, but whatever it is, it's down there, near the vault." The door slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a maintenance shaft that plunged into darkness. The Guardian's crystalline song echoed through the facility, closer now. They could hear it moving through the corridors above, methodically searching every room. "So we have a choice," Dominic said quietly. "Stay here and face the Guardian, or go down there and risk finding something that an entire alien civilization thought needed to be contained." Kira checked her oxygen levels. "We've got about 3 hours of air left. After that, it won't matter what we choose." Marcus stepped toward the maintenance shaft, activating his suit's enhanced lighting. "The Guardian will find us if we stay here. At least down there we have a chance. Either we find the pattern generator and communicate with it, or—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. They all knew the stakes. Find a way to communicate with the Guardian, or become part of the facility's ruins. Another warning sign for the next explorers who ventured too deep into the planet's secrets. One by one, they began their descent into the facility's lowest level, where answers waited in the darkness. Above them, the Guardian's song changed pitch, becoming something that might have been triumph or anticipation. The hunt was entering its final phase, and the true nature of their discovery was about to be revealed. The maintenance shaft descended into darkness like a throat swallowing them whole. Marcus led the way, his suit lights illuminating metal rungs that disappeared into the abyss below. Every few meters, crystalline growths emerged from the walls, their patterns pulsing weakly in response to their presence. 2 hours 40 minutes of oxygen remaining, Kira announced from above him, her voice tight with tension. "Whatever we're going to find down there, we need to find it fast." The shaft ended at a massive circular door, marked with both human hazard symbols and the now familiar geometric patterns they'd seen throughout the facility. Unlike the upper levels, this area showed signs of battle, scorched walls, twisted metal, and what appeared to be crystalline shrapnel embedded in the surrounding surfaces. "Something happened here," Dominic said, examining a particularly dense cluster of crystal fragments. "These patterns, they're dead. No energy signature at all." Marcus approached the door's control panel, which still functioned despite the damage around it. "According to this, we're in Containment Section 0. The vault should be just beyond this door, but—" He trailed off as his suit's sensors began registering unusual readings. The air beyond the door was thick with particulate matter that defied analysis. More concerning were the radiation readings, not dangerous levels, but in frequencies that shouldn't exist in nature. The researchers' logs mentioned something being contained, Kira said, accessing data on her suit's computer. "But most of the files are corrupted. All I can find are fragments about temporal anomalies and pattern degradation." A thunderous crash echoed from above, followed by the now familiar crystalline singing of the Guardian. The sound was distant but growing closer. They were running out of time. "We need to make a decision," Marcus said, his hand hovering over the door controls. "Once we open this, we might not be able to close it again." Dominic checked his own oxygen levels. The pattern generator is our only chance of communicating with that thing. We have to try. Kira nodded grimly. Do it. The door's mechanisms groaned to life, hydraulics hissing as the massive barrier slowly swung open. The chamber beyond was vast, its ceiling lost in darkness despite their suit lights. But it wasn't empty. Far from it. In the center of the room, suspended in a complex framework of crystalline supports and human-made stabilizers, hung what appeared to be a tear in reality itself. It was roughly oval-shaped, about 3 meters tall, and seemed to bend light around it in impossible ways. The air around the anomaly shimmered with prismatic distortions, and occasional pulses of energy caused their suit systems to temporarily malfunction. That's what they found, Kira breathed. That's what the Guardians were containing. Look, Dominic pointed to a series of workstations surrounding the anomaly. The pattern generator must be here somewhere. They split up, searching the workstations. Marcus found research logs describing attempts to study the anomaly, while Dominic discovered technical diagrams of the pattern generator. Kira, however, made the most disturbing find. These readings, she called out, her voice shaking. The anomaly, it's growing. Slowly, barely measurable, but it's been expanding since it was discovered. The crystalline structures around it, they're not just containing it. They're trying to heal it, like antibodies attacking an infection. Heal what? Marcus asked, joining her at the terminal. Reality itself. She gestured to a complex graph showing energy patterns. Whatever this is, it's not just a spatial anomaly. It's like a wound in the fabric of space-time. And this entire planet, this living computer we've been walking through, it evolved specifically to contain it. Another crash from above, closer this time. The Guardian's song had changed pitch, becoming more urgent. Through the open door, they could see the crystalline growths in the shaft pulsing with increasing intensity. Found it, Dominic shouted from across the chamber. He held up a device that looked like a cross between a spotlight and a musical instrument. The pattern generator. It's still powered, but... He never finished the sentence. The anomaly pulsed suddenly, releasing a wave of energy that sent their suit systems into chaos. When the static cleared from their visors, they saw that the crystalline structures containing the tear had begun to resonate, their patterns shifting rapidly. The Guardian, Marcus realized. It's not just hunting us. It's responding to this. Every time we get close to the anomaly, we're disrupting the containment patterns. Kira's eyes widened behind her faceplate, which means we're not just trespassers. From its perspective, we're actively damaging the containment system. The facility shook violently, and through the open door, they could see light approaching. The Guardian, descending the shaft, its crystalline form rippling with patterns they now recognized as warning signs and containment protocols. We need to make a choice, Marcus said, looking between the pattern generator and the approaching Guardian. Try to communicate, or... Wait, Dominic interrupted, studying the device in his hands. These symbols on the pattern generator, they match the containment field. What if communication isn't enough? What if we need to prove we understand what's at stake? Kira quickly accessed another terminal. The researchers, they were trying to help. These protocols, they're not just for communication. They're maintenance sequences, ways to strengthen the containment field. The Guardian appeared in the doorway, its form filling the massive frame. Its patterns were different now, not the angry pulses they'd seen in the forest, but complex, overlapping sequences that seemed to ripple outward, reinforcing the crystalline structures around the anomaly. Marcus made his decision. Dominic, give me the pattern generator. Kira, read me the maintenance sequence. If we can't convince it we're allies, we can at least show it we're not a threat. The Guardian moved into the chamber as Dominic handed over the device. Its crystalline form towered over them, patterns shifting like quicksilver across its surface. But it didn't attack. Instead, it seemed to be waiting, observing. Sequence loading, Kira announced, her fingers flying across the terminal. Ready in 3, 2, 1. Marcus activated the pattern generator, and light erupted from the device. The patterns it projected matched the Guardian's own crystalline displays perfectly, creating a harmonious resonance that filled the chamber. The containment field around the anomaly strengthened, its prismatic distortions becoming more stable. For a moment, nothing else happened. Then the Guardian's patterns changed again, forming sequences they hadn't seen before. Through their suit systems, they began to receive data. Not just simple communication protocols, but a history. A story told in light and crystal about ancient guardians and the duty that had been passed down through millions of years. The choice they faced now was clear: leave as allies in containment or remain as threats to be eliminated. But as the Guardian's story unfolded before them, they realized this was about more than just their survival. They had stumbled upon something far older and more important than their expedition, a duty that stretched back to the dawn of consciousness on this living world. With only 2 hours of oxygen remaining, they would have to decide quickly: accept the Guardian's terms and help maintain the containment, or risk everything to uncover the true nature of what lay beyond the tear in reality. Either way, their role as simple scouts was over. They had become part of something far greater, a story that had been unfolding since before their species first looked up at the stars. The pattern generator hummed in Marcus's hands, its light show creating a bridge of understanding between human and Guardian. Through the crystalline displays, the ancient being shared glimpses of its history, civilizations rising and falling, the evolution of the forest network, and always, the duty of containment. The sequence is stable, Kira reported, monitoring the readings on her terminal. Containment field integrity up 12%. She checked their oxygen levels. 1 hour 50 minutes remaining. The Guardian's patterns shifted, forming new sequences that their suit's computers struggled to translate. But the meaning was clear enough. A choice had to be made. The anomaly pulsed behind them, sending ripples of distorted reality through the chamber. "Look at this," Dominic called out, his voice tight with excitement and fear. He'd accessed another terminal, this one showing data they hadn't seen before. The researchers who built this facility, they weren't just studying the anomaly. They found a way to peek inside it. Marcus turned to him, still maintaining the containment sequence with the pattern generator. What did they see? Other worlds. Not just parallel universes, but possibilities. Paths not taken by reality itself. Some of the readings suggest intelligences unlike anything we've encountered. The researchers theorize that the anomaly isn't just a tear, it's a door, one that was never meant to be opened. The Guardian's song changed pitch, its patterns becoming more urgent. Through their newly established connection, images flooded their minds. Civilizations that had discovered similar anomalies, ones that had tried to harness their power. The results were always the same: catastrophic collapse, reality itself unraveling like a poorly woven tapestry. That's why the containment exists, Kira realized, her voice filled with awe. This whole planet, the forest network, the Guardians, they all evolved to prevent something from coming through. Or maybe to prevent us from trying to go in. A warning klaxon blared through the facility. The anomaly's energy patterns had begun to fluctuate wildly, responding to their presence and the weakening of the containment field. The Guardian moved closer, its crystalline form towering over them, as it added its own energy to the containment protocols. "We need to make a decision," Marcus said, his arms shaking from maintaining the pattern generator's position. "The Guardian is offering us a choice: help strengthen the containment permanently, or study what's on the other side." Dominic finished, his scientific curiosity warring with his survival instinct. Think about it. Insights into the nature of reality itself. The researchers barely scratched the surface. The facility shuddered again, but this time it wasn't from the Guardian's movements. The anomaly was becoming more unstable, its edges shifting and writhing like a living thing. Through their connection with the Guardian, they felt its rising concern. The containment field was failing faster than ever before. Kira moved to another terminal, her fingers flying over the controls. The researchers, they didn't leave voluntarily. According to these logs, they were getting close to something big. They thought they could control the anomaly, use it to advance human understanding by centuries. What happened? Marcus asked, though part of him already knew the answer. The Guardians intervened. They didn't just shut down the facility. They rewrote its purpose, turned it from a research station into part of the containment system. She looked up, her face pale behind her faceplate. We're not the first to face this choice. We're just the first to be given the chance to choose differently. The anomaly pulsed again, stronger this time. Warning lights flashed across all terminals. The containment field was approaching critical failure. Through their link with the Guardian, they felt its growing desperation. Whatever lay beyond that tear in reality, it was awakening, responding to their presence. Look, Dominic pointed to the anomaly. Within its shifting surface, shapes had begun to form. Impossible geometries, hints of landscapes that defied physics, and something else, something that seemed to be looking back at them. Marcus made his decision. Kira, input the full containment sequence. Dominic, help me with the pattern generator. We didn't come here to end the world. The Guardian's patterns flared with what might have been approval. As Kira entered the commands, the crystalline structures throughout the chamber began to resonate in harmony. The pattern generator in Marcus's hands grew almost too hot to hold, its light show perfectly synchronized with the Guardian's displays. Containment sequence initiated, Kira announced. Field strength increasing. But there's something else. The Guardian. It's offering us more than just the chance to help contain this thing. Through their connection, new images flowed. Other Guardians, spread across the galaxy, maintaining similar containment fields around similar anomalies. A network of sentinels, keeping reality itself from unraveling. And now, an invitation, not to study the anomaly, but to join in its protection. They want us to become part of the network, Marcus realized. Not just us, but humanity. They're offering us a place among the Guardians. The choice crystallized in that moment. They could return home with a fragment of forbidden knowledge, tempting humanity with possibilities that could lead to destruction. Or they could bring back something far more valuable. An alliance with an ancient force dedicated to protecting the very fabric of existence. With their remaining oxygen ticking away, Marcus, Kira, and Dominic made their choice. The pattern generator's light merged with the Guardian's crystalline displays, and the containment field surged with new strength. The anomaly's writhing surface began to stabilize, its impossible visions fading back into regulated patterns of energy. Through the chamber, a new harmony emerged, the Guardian's song blending with human technology in a symphony of protection. They had come seeking the simple signal, but found instead a calling that stretched across time and space. Their mission as scouts was technically a failure. They would bring back no mineral samples, no exploitation opportunities. Instead, they would return with something far more precious, an understanding of humanity's true place in a universe far stranger and more purposeful than they had imagined. As the containment field reached full strength, and their suit oxygen continued to drain, they began their journey back to the surface, no longer as explorers, but as initiates into an ancient order of cosmic guardians. The forest would remember them, not as intruders, but as the first humans to choose wisdom over knowledge, protection over power. And in the depths of the facility, the anomaly remained contained, its mysteries preserved for the sake of all reality, guarded now by both crystalline sentinel and human determination. Their story would be told in patterns of light through the living forest, a testament to the moment when humanity faced the ultimate temptation of forbidden knowledge and chose instead to become part of existence's defense. The Junior Scout program had trained them to explore new worlds, but in the end, they had discovered their true mission, helping to protect all worlds, known and unknown, from the chaos that lurked between realities.